Chairman Lee, welcome to the interviewer, and thank you for doing this with me.
예, 반갑습니다.
Very nice to meet you.
I love your smile.
Me too.
Before the Philippines, did you go to another country to pursue your advocacy on peace?
아니요.
No.
예, 아니고 이 코로나가 있긴 이후에는 집에서 나가지를 안 했어요. 지금까지.
That was prior to the pandemic.
Oh.
Once the pandemic happened, he stayed home for 3 years and he did not go out.
네, 코로나 있은 이후 이 해외에 나온 것은 이 필리핀 공이 처음이에요.
This is his first stop after the pandemic. The Philippines is the first country that he traveled to.
What an honor.
영광입니다.
저도요.
Mine too.
I read your life story, and I gather that you are a war veteran, and you are now a peace advocate. What is the story?
제가 군에 있을 적에는 이러한 것을 하질 않았고 몰라요. 그런데 제대 이후에 이제 시골에서
When I was in the military service as a young man, I was not really interested in any of this, and I was not doing this work. But I was discharged from the military, and I had experienced what war was like. Even then, I first started to work as a farmer. I was a farmer, so I would be out in the fields often, and I had a grandfather who was very prayerful, and so I would pray. I didn't really have a faith life. I did not have any of that, but I did remember my grandfather praying, and that is how I started praying to God. It was because of the influence of my grandfather.
그때에 옛날 어릴 적에 할아버지가 눈 뜨고 하늘 보고 가 쓰고 들어와 있고 그래 기도했기 때문에 나도 이제 하늘에 보고 기도할 때 눈 뜨고
I started praying out in the field because my grandfather used to do that. He would look up into the sky, he would be wearing his robe and his traditional hat, and he would pray there in the field. I saw this as a young boy, and I started doing that as well. But one day, I call it a star, but it was a bright light in the sky, which I can only call a star. And I decided that this was my star, and one day it came down to me. I was so surprised. I was out in the field, and we would usually pray behind the house. We had a hut out there where we did the farming, and we would also eat there. And because this star came to me, I was so surprised, and I went inside the house to wake up my father, who was sleeping inside. I said, "Father, Father, the star is here." That's what I said in my urgency. My father stepped out, and he saw the star, and he gasped because he too was shocked.
아버지가 밖에 나와봤어요. 아버지도 밖에 나와 별을 보고 아 하면 놀랐어요. 와, 그 별 크다. 아마 밝다.
My father saw the star as well, and he saw how bright it was and how big it was. And he said that we have a saying in our country that with the appearance of a remarkable person, something like this happens. And that is what I experienced as a young man with my father.
찾아왔어요. 이제 잠깐만요. 이제 그 별을 3일 저녁으로 찾아왔는데 그 별의 인도로 산 위에 올라가서 하나님께 내 피로 이 손가락 피 내고 피가 적어서 바꾸면 또
This big star that I mentioned came to me for 3 days straight, and this same star was what guided me to the mountain where I made a pledge to God. I made a promise to God with my own blood. I drew blood from my fingertips, and it wasn't enough, so I had to draw more blood from my foot. And I made a promise with my blood, telling God that I will believe in Him and that I will do His work.
I am so interested in the discussion of peace. Even on that spiritual level, can you make me understand peace in that context? Mga kababayan, ako'y natutuwa po and proud to introduce to you SendWave, the fee-free remittance app for OFWs and kababayans living abroad. You know what you do? Use my promo code BOY to receive $10 free credit on your first transfer. Visit the link on the description for more info. Maraming salamat po.
평화는 사람이 이루려고 그렇게 애려서도 사람의 노력으로 평화는 이루어지지 않습니다. 이 평화의 주인이 이것을 하나하나 단계적으로
Peace is not something that can be achieved by the efforts of man alone, no matter how hard he tries. The owner of peace, and that is God, is the one that has to fulfill this step by step. And that is how eventually this world of complete peace can be created. And the reason for this is that we have a God who is a creator. He is the creator of all creation.
이 지구촌에 살지 않고 저 하늘나라에 지금 가서 삽니다. 그러나 그 하나님이 이 지구가 하나님이 창조한 것이니까 이 땅에 오시기 위해서 종교라고 하는 이거를 만들어서 사람들에게 이해를 시키고 있는 것입니다. 결국은
However, there is a betraying spirit who we call the devil. And because this spirit called the devil is the one that is actually ruling over the world right now, God could not stay here. And that is why he is up in heaven. That is why when we look in the Bible, the promise is that God will come down. And so in order for God to be able to come down and dwell here, because this is the world that he created and he wants to dwell here, he is teaching us these things and he is helping us to realize this situation through what we call religion. That is really God's way of letting us know and understand his story and what is going on. When that kingdom is created, God will come. His kingdom that is in heaven will come. The angels will also come. But because there is that spirit that is opposing and hindering God, whenever God's work is being done, this spirit will disturb that. He will use people, animals, whatever it may be, to disturb the work of God. And when we understand that, that is when we can overcome this situation. You can stay away from that kind of situation. But when you are not aware of this, then how could you do that, right? Because you have no idea what is going on. And so these are the things that I want to talk about, but it's difficult because not many can really understand this. I would like to call somebody from the peace delegation here. This is the Director General of the Youth Group of HWPL. His name is Chung Young-min. I would like him to come here and join me to talk a little bit about the peace works that we do.
Okay, I'm going to explain his point about
Okay.
peace. He believes that, and we all believe that he has the secret and the answer of peace, which is called the DPCW, 10 Articles and the 38 Clauses, which is Declaration for Cessation of War and Conflict. Because the current international law is not perfect, that's why we have wars in the world right now, such as Ukraine and the Russian war, etc. And conflicts in regions and in countries.
Let's talk about that. Ukraine, Russia, civil war in Myanmar, civil war and terrorist insurgents in Afghanistan, the civil war in Colombia, the terrorist insurgents in Iraq, the drug war in Mexico, the civil war in Syria and Yemen. And then can you explain to us what that declaration of the cessation of wars in these places, in the context of your community?
The context is based on the Universal Declaration
Yes.
and the UN Charter. But we want to proceed from this point so that we want to make it perfect so that any country can occur any war. So that's why we have this standard.
What are you doing in this respect?
We want to make it as a resolution in the United Nations
You're in the process of doing this now. All right.
so that all countries in the world will have to commit. That's why he meets many political leaders and then leaders of the countries and then civil society leaders, and youth and women, and then all together, he bring all together in one community in the name of peace, and then get the support from them so that all the political leaders of their own country support the DPCW so that we can have power in the United Nations.
This is through the declaration
Right.
that the chairman and the organization has come up with.
Right.
Okay.
We want to set the standard for peace. This is a new standard so that the countries, even though the political leaders want to have war, they will not, they can't. That's the world we want.
And that's the world we want also.
Yes, yes.
So aside from the declaration, what other actions have you done in the direction towards peace?
Right, so if you look at the DPCW, actually we have clause 7 and 8 and 9. We want to build a very good mood among religions. So we believe that because there are so many wars caused by the difference of the religions, we
Yes.
want to make the harmony among religions. So this is a very big point, and that's why we are operating the WARP office, which is a religious leaders group and
Okay.
like platform where they can come together and then they talk about their scriptures and they try to understand each other so that when they understand each other and every script talks about peace, then if they understand,
You're mediating all
Right.
these sectors. All right.
Right. That's one of our main principle and the main the programs. And
Okay.
then the other program is peace education, because
Okay.
we believe that when people know the knowledge about the peace, and then they will not make wars because it's a disaster. But the people don't understand each other, and the people don't know the importance of peace, and then they occur conflict.
How do you do this education? Because it's a very, very, very important point.
Right. We have peace education program for and then textbooks, and we train the teachers for peace education.
Teachers around the world,
For teachers in elementary school.
I know, but around the world,
Yes.
you distribute textbooks and then you train educators
Right.
to educate people on peace.
Right.
That's very good. How successful have you been and how much have you done in this direction?
For example, for the religious conflict, the platform
Yes.
to talk about, we have the WARP offices in more than 100 nations, and we are operating the peace education program in more than 50 nations. And then we are recognized as some of the nations in UNESCO because UNESCO is in
Oh.
charge of education. So they recognize us as a very good program, so they introduce our program in UNESCO. So the most important point is that we want the support from all of the world for the DPCW.
Okay.
So if you support DPCW, and then we can have power in United Nations and from all countries in the world, and then we can set the standard for peace.
마지막으로
So
그만 해달라고.
if we proceed this process more and more and step by step, and then eventually we believe that we will accomplish peace in the world.
세상의
Thank you very much. And all the best from all of us. From all of us here, and God bless us all. And thank you to the chair.
감사합니다.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hi, people of the Philippines and people of the world. Hit the button below and you will be subscribing to the Boy Abunda Talk channel on YouTube. Let's keep talking. Kaibigan, tuloy ang usap.